Hello, 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 beautiful people. Welcome back. With this video, if you don't have the time to sit down and actually listen to it, I implore you to settle down and be in an environment where you can actually absorb the information. Because this video is a transitioning point to what I found in my own personal experience to be the hard part. See, all these things we've been speaking about, no matter how much people perceive it to be advanced or complex, that is just a baby walk. That's the reason why all these videos are titled 101, because those are just a foundation you need. If you miss a small explanation of what I'm about to say in this video, it might make all the difference. Because when you start to deal with people and speak with people, these basic things that I'm about to tell you and show you, things we'll be reading, are the premise that they know that you must know. Some of these things, some people listening to this now might think they already know it, which is true. But the details of it, they might not. Or the details they think they are already familiar with might not be how it really works. But nonetheless, the inner working of this thing called the birth certificate that everyone is going after, or at least attempts to go after, is what we're about to speak of. And it's the core of how things work. With that said, let's speak to each other on a human level first. And we'll start on this human level first by just having a regular conversation with one another. Because no matter what we do, there are always things with far greater powers. I'm not speaking about human influence. I'm speaking about other things that exist in this world with you and I that we have to first learn from. And if something inside of you don't align with these principles, it just simply won't work. I've been in this journey with certain people who I have along the line gradually observed certain things, and to a point I asked myself, why is it working for me? I was at a point where it was almost like an unconscious competent, whereby I saw it was working, I saw I was accomplishing what a lot of people wanted to do, but the reality was I actually really didn't know why. I knew I studied, I knew I dedicated time to doing things, all that stuff, but the people that I was with did the same thing, yet not all of us came out the same way. Some went to jail, some gave up, whatever it was. So let me speak to you on this basic level first, because in retrospect, some of these basic things that I'm about to start with were some of the things that I actively put to use, the principles, without necessarily realizing it. And it turns out that's the foundational difference between how far people can and will go in life. Most seeking this thing regarding the birth certificate and its monetary value don't want to take certain level of responsibility because of how they've been conditioned. So let's begin with these basic things. These basic things are based on similitude as follows. That thing we call the sun is far older than the earth, but the waters on earth is older than the sun itself. The water on earth, which is older than the sun, was brought to earth during its early stages of its molding through asteroids that carried the water molecules and collided into earth, which created the moon, which now orbits the earth. Earth relies on both of these, the primordial waters and the nuclear power plant called the sun. Think about this for a moment and then correlate it to why water is used to heal the mind and body, and why heat rejuvenates and removes entropy. They even show it to you in movies. One of the most strongest superheroes in a certain universe used the sun. Truth is the same way. Truth is water. It is ancient and invaluable. Just like the water on earth, the molecule in it was carried through an asteroid here. It predates and it's far older than our solar system. Truth is the same thing. It is a primordial factor in the law that everything functions on. And the awareness is the sun that rejuvenates the soul and gives light to new path. Truth is the primordial water that will never change and is far older than anything you will ever be aware of. And out of it spans information. And within that information of truth comes the equivalence of the sun, which is awareness. The varying degrees of awareness of how you perceive the truth will provide and rejuvenate your soul and your perspective of where you're going. It will shed the light. Always seek the water of truth, and the awareness which shed lights to these primordial waters, and you will never ever fail, no matter what you do. Even outside of subject matters of this nature. If you're doing vacant land, if you're doing subject to, if you're doing commercial properties, if you're a construction worker, truck driver, whatever aspect of life, these principles apply. The only difference with me here is I don't subscribe to the hero complex. To hell with being a hero. Heroes are martyrs. To hell with that. Heroes sacrifice themselves. I'm telling you this because this information that we're going to be speaking of is something that those that I know choose not to speak of publicly. And even in private conversations, they're apprehensive. And even if you find these information outside of someone telling it to you, it will be clues and conjectures. Or it will be clouded in things whereby it's right in your face, but unless someone actually expounds on it, you'll never get it. You hear the words. In fact, I suspect 75% of the words that I'm about to explain is something you are readily familiar with or you've heard sometimes in the past. I'm not here to be a hero or a scapegoat by giving you information. I don't subscribe to the hero complex. But ultimately, the truth is the ancient principle that overrides everything in any playing field. And one's awareness of it is what allows its usefulness. That's what I care for. Truth being water, awareness being the sun. One predates the other, but nonetheless, they work hand in hand. The sun being revelation of the truth. Without water and light, there's one thing and one thing only: death. That death is what you see consistently with a lot of people who speak of status correction or whatever else you see on social media. The second thing is then subsequently this: money. Money is about rules. And the rules to money are that everything is actually free if you know how to make it such. What makes anything free is value. Value is what people are willing to attach to anything. Realistic definition of what money is and the realistic definition of what value is. And they go hand in hand. Value is what people are willing to attach to anything. And money is anything which is free. In truth, money is free. And money is about rules. And the rules to money is that everything is actually free if you know how to make it so. An example is, I had someone tell me that if I make the whole patron thing here about $200 a month, then I'll actually attract people of a certain level, because the reality is people actually, believe it or not, people actually trust you more if what you offer is more expensive. If what you offer is not expensive, you do attract the wrong crowd. You do attract people with a certain state of mind. And if people do come, they actually will be more apprehensive because in their mind, they've been deprived of anything good, whether they realize it or not. So much that when anything is being handed to them, they question its validity. It's almost too good to be true for them. It's almost too good to be true for them. That's what you call value. And in knowing that, one can place a high value in certain things to attract certain types of people. who readily know they deserve certain things because they're willing to put said value in that thing. But in my case, the reality is I'm not interested in those type of people who are willing to pay large amounts each month. I'm more interested in the everyday man because things of this nature, the everyday man suffers from it the most. Again, I'm not interested in the hero complex, but I realize once you get to certain stages of things, stages of development, you would actually begin to intertwine with the everyday man more. Because the everyday man are the will that makes the slavery works. And you realize that you have no choice but to begin to educate them out there when it comes to the intricate things also. Because those who know use those who don't know, and then confine them in a certain realm to function a certain way based on the intent of those who know. Because those who know use those who don't know, and then confine them in a certain realm to function a certain way based on the intent of those who know. Two men and women can know the same thing, but the intent of how they choose to use that information might differ. So everyone that's under them will carry that state of mind. So one man or woman who has maybe, as we perceive, a cleaner intent, so to say, will now come, and their business affairs might be hindered by another man or woman who knows that exact same thing they do, but have set into stage a lot of bots, so to say, a lot of NPCs, a lot of agent Smiths, or the everyday man who don't know jack shit, but they are convinced they have it going on because they're affiliated or associated with something. So now you have to now debug them by teaching them certain things. I came across a lot of that in some of my journey. And it's more important to go back and actually show these things to people so that they themselves can spread it to others. Knowing comes with some responsibility. The everyday man and woman's awareness of how these things work, which even the small pockets of those within the everyday man that wants to know how it works still get lost in the sauce. But the everyday man that gets how this works actually changes things for the better for those who walk a certain path. Because this information, people know about it. But given the fact that it's such an open template that once you really get it and you have the proper association, you can really do anything. That is where the true nature of people show, whereby they realize they don't want others to figure it out. But I say, so long as the everyday man sees the truth of why and how things work, that's what matters. The difference between one man and one woman is always their varying degrees of why and how on any given subject matter. Not that they don't know something exists, but more so why and how it works. The thinking behind the thing rather than the thing itself. The thinking behind the thing is what makes it work, not the thing itself that is readily observed. That is what matters the most. And believe it or not, money, to which ultimately, let's be truthful to each other, is what we're all seeking after when we talk about this birth certificate thing. And money is really that simple. All the other things you hear about money is a derivative and a subjective opinion of what the function of money really is, which is what we just explained, believe it or not, when it comes to value, money, and the free template and people's intent of how it's used. You must know this and have this mindset. This is what separates the everyday man from those who really get it and actually live a different life. Now, whether or not they have a good heart and intent is a different thing. But you must know that no matter how special anything I'm about to speak of here might sound, it is not far-fetched from your own grasp. No matter how complex some of the terminology and explanation might be, it is not far-fetched from your grasp. These are simply the basic rule of money, beyond the mundane that even my own parents had no clue of. And most likely the majority of people listening to this probably fall into the same category. We can't always wait for the quote, adults to create the future. You and I, We are the future, so we must create it. It's a huge duty on the new generations to create the future by simply doing one thing: learning. Learning that which even the ones before you did not know of. And because most people before you did not know of it, they will tell you you cannot do it. And then preserving it for the ones you are passing the baton to, either during your own lifetime or long after you are gone through your trust. I say that to iterate that all these things you're learning with each of these videos should be preserved through Trust Minute as instructions for the future. I'm doing so. What about you? Just ask yourself that question. No different than you will see in movies where some people play some past record of something and they see some image or some audio voice of someone in the past done them certain things and it assists them do one thing or the other, like an issue they're dealing with in the current. Right, you should be doing the same thing. It might not mean much to you now, but it really matters. Because people, on the other hand, are doing that. They're playing the game far more effectively beyond that. Truth, principles, primordial elements of things do not change because they are principles. Principles is just another word for immutable laws of how something works. But the terminology and the faces are the only thing that will change. The definition and operation of the changed terminology and faces will remain the same because it needs to, in order for the power changing hands to remain in power. The power itself, aka the principle, never ever changes. The one who holds it does. With that said, there are a few words I would like to introduce to you. These few terms will be the building block of where you stand in the equation where representatives of entities come to you and begin negotiation. Don't worry about being a master at it, because if there was ever any mistake that I made, it was that, which actually delayed certain things. But in not worrying about all the greater details, still be prudent. I would always emphasize prudence. But while you're being prudent, allow that not to keep you in one position. Don't sprint, but take one step at a time. Because the human mind works in repetition, authority, and intensity. Repetition is how you tattoo something into your mind. Authority is how you let your mind know the importance or the urgency of something. Intensity is how quick you want that information to be tattooed into your mind. These three things are the basic principles of hypnosis that's used against people when it comes to information through news or whatever else goes on. You should apply it also. Each step that you take forward, the intensity and authority that you take with those steps should be more than the repetition. Because the repetition in your case is going to be steady. You're not sprinting. Your cadence of your foot is not moving too fast. It's a bit slower. The repetition is more steady. When you move fast in doing something, believe it or not, you sacrifice one or two other attributes, which is authority and intensity. You want to move at a gentle pace, but increase and amplify authority and intensity, which is your intent. So while all these words are going to be read, try not to rush it, but just take it slow. With time, it will make more sense. The first word is founder share. As a founder starts and grows a company, the founder may consider selling her shares in the company prior to an exit via a sale of the company or an initial public offering. Such sale, typically called a secondary sale, helps a founder meet needs for necessary expenditures or reduce her risks tied to the company. The company in this subject matter, which I assume you ought to know, and even if you don't, then you're a newbie, I highly implore you to watch all these other videos that's been done over the span of a few years. If you are a newbie, Watching this video might confuse you more. At most, it might just only merely motivate you, but you'll be clueless as to what's going on. Many videos with so much details that you need to know has been done regarding trust, regarding contract. Watch each of those videos so that you really get it. This company spoken of here is the Legus, which is the creature of law mentioned in this video. The issue with most people is they are being treated like a company by executors who's exercising interest, aka estate, in that creature of law called Legus. Therefore, people have this notion, or at least an inkling, that I'm not a corporation, I'm a flesh and blood. People know this, but when it comes to controlling an effective abatement of liability and control of the benefits of it, they don't know that part. People are stuck playing defense. And while even playing defense, they don't even know how to counterattack. Those are things when it comes to court cases where they sue people, debt collectors, traffic, criminal, civil. That's the reason why I often do video when it comes to court cases and things like that also. Because that realm of reality is how they finalize their game, by giving it a face of legality. So you must also know that. None of these are isolated. The company we're speaking of here, make no mistake, value to that thing as tangible moves. Because that thing tangible itself actually doesn't move. But the contract, aka the paper attached to it, is what moves for investors to use as a medium to assert interest in it or to make money. But before, remember that term, right and obligation of contract, that we constantly show in the Constitution. It's not the contract itself. It is the right that you have to the contract. The extent of the right you have to the contract is determined and defined based on the language of the contract itself. When I tell you having an just because you rush it does not mean you'll get there quick. You might rush so much that you rush your way to the wrong direction. Have you ever been in a vehicle whereby you're going somewhere and you're trying to get there real quick, whether you use a GPS or not, and you took the wrong turn and you're accelerating because you just want to get there quick, but you just took the wrong turn. You're moving pretty fast though. You're moving fast to get farther from the right destination. Meaning you're just moving yourself farther away from where you're supposed to be. Just slow down. I won't feed you some trash about some beef for a sandwich or whatever or the new speculation people bring out. I tell you, take it slow. I'm not going to give you the sales pitch of, oh yeah, this is the last one now. It's you better come quickly before it all goes. No. The system is perfect, people. It is perfect. It has been like this for a very long time, since the Babylonian times. There's a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. Many people read that book and see it from one angle, but certain people read that book with other predominant knowledge of other things like this, and they see these same principles we've just read as in ancient principles. And that book, The Richest Man in Babylon, is actually taken out of inscriptions that were written in walls in Iraq. So these are foundational principles that will never change. What we call it, who controls it, are the only thing that are going to change. But the principles will never ever change, because money functions on rules, and the rules are immutable. All you have to do is know how it works. Most people are just mad and upset that the birth certificate is this. They're not the straw man. Something is fraudulent. Most of those people will remain upset and will get nowhere. Competence is the key. No different than people who work for money. People sacrifice time and health for money every day, yet they don't stop for a moment to say, this thing that I'm constantly working for, maybe I should learn about how it works if I'm willing to sacrifice my time and health for it. The 1 hour video has been posted on the Patreon page. Till next time, take care. Best of luck.